Hi everyone, I'm back with another fall/Halloween painting. There's nothing especially spooky about this one or anything. It's going to be, as you can see, a little pumpkin. I've gone ahead and sketched that out for myself just so that I know. And then the background is going to be black with a lot of little like reddish orange sparkles. Bokeh meant to be like distant lights. So hopefully it turns out well. Hopefully my pumpkin looks better in the end than it currently does, but it was just a rough sketch, okay? Don't judge. And on my palette here, I've got some black, I've got a little bit of white because I don't necessarily think we're gonna need it, some ultramarine blue, light yellow, is that what that's called? Mid yellow, sorry about that, and then scarlet here, of course, to mix together to make the orange. And then here, I've got a bit of slow dry medium, which is this stuff. And it does exactly what it implies. Acrylic paint dries really quickly, and that just slows down your work time so that you don't have to move quite as fast with it. Also, I've got coffee in my cute little ghost. Woo! Okay. Sorry.
Please forgive me for that weird noise, and let's just get
the
into
brushes
this.
that you're
Here are the brushes
likely to
that
need.
you're
Something fluffy
possibly
because we are
going to
going
need. This
to
is
have
just
to
a 1-inch
be
mop brush.
blending things out
They're good
a
for
little
blending,
bit.
which is what we're
So
going to be
you need a
using it
big
for today, to like
fluffy
soften
brush.
out
This
some
is
edges.
a 1-inch
I believe I got this one from
fluffy
Michael.
brush.
Pretty old, and
I don't know, like,
unfortunately, as you can see, it has paint left over in the bristles because I suck at taking care of brushes, so be better than I am.
You're going to need some kind
You're
of,
also going to need something
I don't even remember what this
like
is
this.
for,
I got this forever ago.
but
You can see
I don't know what it's called.
All kinds of frazzled.
But some kind of like
I believe it's a
dense, this is
stippling
boar
brush
bristle,
though.
or
I think
at
it's
least
for
synthetic,
like
I guess,
doing
boar bristle, I'm
stenciling,
not sure.
but I like it
Brush
for
to make the little
like sparkles in the background here.
This, so
you know, you need a brush that you're not going to be worried about ruining, because as you saw, you scrub it in a circular motion, and it's definitely kind of damaging to the brush. You need an angled brush,
possibly an angled
just to, I don't know,
brush.
you always need one.
This is a number 6.
Like, it's good practice just have one on hand.
You're definitely going to need something
And
similar
then you need a
to
flat
this,
brush
which is just a flat
to
brush.
do the background. This is a
again,
1-inch, I believe.
12.
Half
And
inch
then
flat brush,
maybe
I'm not sure.
I'm
And
not
then a
100%
filbert
sure.
brush, again,
You're going
because
to
filberts
need
are
a
just
filbert, but
useful in almost any application. In this
case
situation,
you
we're
need to
going
get
to be
around
using
tight
it to
little
get into
areas
all of
in
these
here.
little like delicate areas up in there and not make a mess.
Some type of detail brush, and I'm going to yeah, I forgot to grab my detail brushes. I have 2 here. I have a number 2 detail brush. I believe this is all technically a liner brush. Sorry, I'm shaky, guys. I always am. And then, as like this one is a number 5. Same thing, liner brush. So, sorry if you hear animals jumping around in the background. They were all asleep until I decided to film, and then now they decide they need to be in the way. With all of that being said, I'm just going to start with my flat brush, and I'm going to be painting from here all over here black. I drew in the stem, but that was more just for the reference sake, but I'm going to paint this entire area black. I'm going to leave this because I don't want to have to paint orange over black. That's not going to be fun. So paint around the pumpkin, but you can paint over the stem because that's essentially just going to be working a kind of blue highlight into the black to make it look like a stem. So also the reference image, which I will try to remember to link down below, I found it on Pinterest, has a bit of a like light blue glow over in this area somewhere, so I'll likely go ahead and put that first and then black everywhere else. I am going to mix the slow dry medium in with my black to hopefully extend. Ooh, I should have done the, oh, that's okay. I should have done the little highlight first, but that's okay. I'll just leave a little space and I'll work that in at some point. Now this black is very thin, so I will absolutely have to go over this a second time, unfortunately.
Okay, I'm going to just start painting the background. I'm doing a voiceover because I was just rambling and I don't think you guys want to listen to that. The black paint I'm using is super thin, So I'm going to have to do 2 coats. If you want, you can leave a little space there for that blue highlight, but if you don't, it's really not going to take anything away from the painting to just do it black. So I'm just scrubbing that in and getting that all covered. And here my camera cuts out, so I'm just scrubbing in that blue highlight, blending the edges with the black, and then I'm going to come in with that mop brush and blend from the light color into the darker color. And all this doesn't matter because I have to do a second coat anyway, and so I'm going to go do that, and when we come back, we will do the little, like, sparkles in the background, and yeah.
And we're back. So as you see, I've added this little kind of blown out white area, or lighter area. It's, like I said, a mixture of blue and white, and then a little bit of black got mixed in just from blending it. And so the next thing we're going to do is take this brush that I showed you earlier. Again, I have no idea what I got it for. It was from Walmart. There's the brand, Waverly Inspirations. I believe it's for stippling on, like, it's a stippling brush maybe, is that what it is? I'm not sure. Anyway, so we're going to take this brush, we're going to mix together, starting with the darkest, some dark red, and we're going to start just doing little circles all in the background, kind of more concentrated in this area, but there will be just a couple over here. And then we will gradually do that lighter and lighter. So let me get my red mixed up and we will begin.
Okay, I'm doing another voiceover here, so I'm just going to start with the darkest shade of red and gradually move up to a brighter shade, a more orangey shade. I'm not sure why it cropped it like this and put those weird bars around the clip. They aren't in the original one, so I have no clue what's going on here, but it does it every time I put it in the editor. I was zoomed in so you guys could see, but I feel like you are missing a lot of it, and I'm not sure why that's happening. But yeah, you just want to stipple on the darker red. Honestly, I wish I had started with a slightly darker red even, so if you decide to paint this, maybe start just like a slight shade up from the black. Like, you want to see the red, but kind of just barely. So if I did this again, I would start darker than this. And I think I might speed this process up because I'm just going to be doing, like I said, starting with my darkest red and moving up to the brightest red and kind of putting them randomly. They can overlap a little bit. They don't have to be perfectly round. It's not a huge deal. As you add the lighter ones, you do want to slightly overlap the darker ones in some spots, but not every single one. But yeah, I think I'm going to speed this up, and I hope you enjoy watching me do a bunch of circles. Our background is nice and dry, so now we're going to move on to painting our pumpkin, and we are going to use that filbert brush, and I'm going to leave the reference lines here and use them as the guide for where my shadows are going to go. If anything, I think they're going to help deepen the shadows a little bit. So rather than erase them or make them lighter, I'm just going to leave them and use them as my guidelines. I'm not going to complicate this that much. I'm just going to basically paint it the same shade of orange, but I'm not going to worry if there are little variations because pumpkins aren't necessarily all one shade of orange. They have little imperfections sometimes. So I just need to mix up my paints, and I'm going to mix the mid yellow and the scarlet together to get a nice true orange with my filbert brush. Needed more yellow there, those two red. Sorry for noises in the background. My windows are open and my neighbors are in a golf cart, so that's what that is. There, my paint's pretty well mixed, and it's time to just get into this pumpkin. And I'm going to try to paint with the direction of the lines of the pumpkin, just because it'll make it a little easier. It'll create some texture because the paint's going to create little ridges and things as I drag the brush. And just the brush strokes moving in the same direction as the lines of the pumpkin, I think will make things a little easier to blend and also make it look more cohesive, if that makes any sense. Make sure you get the bottom part. Try to cover any white. The black isn't a huge deal, but you definitely want to cover any white that's left. And you just basically keep doing that all the way across. Always following, this thing does not want to stay on here. Always following the lines of the pumpkin. I hope you guys are enjoying this painting so far. I always feel so awkward in videos because I don't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about. And like, I am positive nobody is painting along with me, so I feel so weird explaining what I'm painting, but then like, what else do I talk about, you know? So there's that. Gonna go back over and make sure I got everything covered. Get this bottom part because I always miss that. And then I realized I can actually scrub the paint into these and it blurs them out and it makes it look so much nicer. I really like how it looks. And again, it's just helping to create those little dips and shadows in the pumpkin, so I love that. Also, this video is my first time using voiceovers, like more than just a few seconds here and there, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Sorry if it's really awkward. But what I was saying in the video while recording made no sense, and so I was like, I'm gonna have to just do a voiceover. So there's the base layer of our pumpkin. I think I'm just going back in and adding a little bit extra paint just to make it a bit thicker. Making sure, again, I've not left any white spots because those will be super obvious. I believe here, yeah, I'm grabbing some of the mid yellow and I'm just gonna add, like, flick in some highlights along the top there. And I'm not following the reference image. I looked at it before I started and then I'm just going off what I want to do and what I think looks nice. So my painting, spoiler alert, turns out absolutely nothing like the original image. Sorry, golf cart again, but I try not to follow images too precisely because if I start off with the intention of it looking exactly how it looks in the picture, I'm going to be disappointed because I know realistically it's not going to, and so I just kind of look at it, get the basic idea, and then I just go from there and do what I want to do because that ends up with me being much happier with my art at the end of it. So there are the highlights. There'll be more, but those are the very beginning basic highlights. I believe I'm now mixing up possibly a shadow. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Where am I? Where did I go? Come on, come back. Okay, I could have cut all of that out. Yes, I'm adding kind of a light brown. Still making sure it's a very orangey shade, but yes, I'm adding a light brown to the already, like the pencil lines that I left, just to kind of blur them out a little more, add a little bit more depth to them, and also kind of like it blends them out so they don't look so harsh. So I'm gonna do that. everywhere that I put a pencil mark. Not being super precise, and just as you see, being kind of like quick about it because it's a pumpkin. They don't need to be, if they're straight lines, it looks kind of strange. So you want them to be kind of like some wider, some more narrow, some kind of wobbly. And I'm also flicking that color up from the bottom because when it goes out of frame, that would be a bit darker, in my mind at least. Just add that in. Pumpkin's looking a little rough right now, but that's okay. I think the end result ends up being worth it. So this is a trust the process moment. One thing that I like, I started off painting with watercolor, which I find kind of difficult. I do like it, but I find it difficult because there's only so much room for error with watercolor. Like, you can kind of pick up the paint to a point, but it's very touchy. I then moved on to oil paints, which I liked, but the dry time was so long, and they're kind of expensive, and so I didn't quite know what I was doing. I didn't really know how to paint yet, and so I thought, I'm wasting these expensive paints learning. Then I went to acrylic because I'm like, okay, these are cheaper in general. I mean, obviously you can buy expensive paints of any kind, but yeah, I bought some acrylics and I started with those. And I will say the main difference in my opinion is just the dry time is significantly different. Oil paints take a very long time to dry. You can layer them super easily. Another golf cart. It's the same guy driving by. But anyway, they're super easy to layer with oil paints. Acrylics dry so fast, and you have to move quickly unless you have something like a slow dry medium. Here I'm adding more highlights in because I felt like some of them got lost a little bit. So just adding in more highlights. Sorry if you hear birds and everything. Like I said, my windows are open. It's a nice day. It's like 68 in Michigan, so, or the part of Michigan I'm in. But yeah, I ended up really liking acrylics, and I would like to get into working with oils again at some point, but for now, I like the acrylics. I've learned to work with the fast drying and then slowing it down with mediums and things. But if you're someone who's never painted before, I personally think starting with acrylics is nice because they are so cheap and you can kind of see, okay, do I like painting? Do I not? And I just think they're very like beginner friendly. But that being said, obviously you start however you want. More highlights, more of the mid yellow because I think it looks nice and it really like pops with the orange. This is kind of a tedious process doing this pumpkin because not that I ever expect it to look realistic because I'm not a realism painter. I wish I was. That's something that I would love to eventually get to, but I'm not at that point yet. So I'm being kind of nitpicky, but realistically, you could stop here if you wanted to, if you were happy with this. I'm not, so I'm going to keep going. I'm showing you guys all what it looks like so far because I've had to pause. Adjusting the color there. There you go. That's where we are right now, but I had to stop because if you keep painting over acrylic paints and they're too thick and like wet, it'll start to lift the paint and you don't want that to happen. So at that point, it's best to let it dry and just kind of move on to the next thing. Here I am starting with just some details. I've mixed up again kind of a mid-tone brown, and I'm basically just poking in little imperfections, little pumpkin freckles all over the place, wherever I feel like they should go. That's the one thing I do like about this is it can be a little messy. It can be imperfect because even real pumpkins aren't perfect. You can put as much detail or as little as you want. You could leave this a very flat kind of, I'm not sure what the word is, but like broad strokes with different colors of orange and yellows and reds and have it be kind of not abstract, but you know, not a even slightly realistic looking pumpkin. And I still think that would be very cool. So I think I might go ahead and speed this part up as well because I'm just doing a bunch of little details. Let me make sure that I'm not about to start something new though, because I'm not 100% sure. Okay, here I am starting to go back over the little shadows. So I'm glad I didn't speed that up because I would have missed that. Going back into the little grooves of the pumpkin with that brown. And then there's where, again, my paint starts to lift. So I'm like, okay, I need to move away from that area. And I go back to it because why not? I think I'm not realizing exactly what's happening. I think here is where I'm like, oh, yes, okay, it is lifting. Okay, yeah. You can kind of see it gets a little lighter in that spot at the top. So I move on. And I'm not sure. I think after this, I do stop and dry it so that I can continue working, or maybe I move on to the stem. I'm really not even sure. I don't remember what I did. But yeah, if you're following still at this point, and if you are into painting, what's your favorite medium? Do you prefer acrylics or oils, or are you a watercolorist? Or in general, if you're an artist, what is your preferred medium? I tend to stick to acrylics, and I also like to draw just with pencil at this point. I don't draw as much as I probably should to get better at it, but you know, that's okay. Once again, going back to that spot, and then I'm like, okay, leave it alone. You're going to mess it up because there's so many layers of paint on there that you're going to just lift it to a point where you're left with a big white spot where you do not want a white spot. So if you find yourself painting with acrylics and the paint's starting to lift off, you just have to leave it alone and let it dry. And then try to fix it later. See, I keep going back. What is wrong with me? I guess I'm stubborn. I am a Taurus. While we're waiting for the pumpkin itself to dry, I've sketched in. I sketched in actually a little bit ago. I'm not sure you guys can see actually. Here, I've sketched in the stem area. And what we are going to do is mix up a dark blue, basically a step up from black. We want it to be a pretty dark blue. And just paint the stem in. I'm not even sure you guys will be able to see that on the camera because it's a very dark blue. And then once this dries, or actually before it dries, I will be going in and adding some brighter highlights to show the like ridges, I guess, of the stem. Also painting this bottom part here darker. I'm just going to probably use a pure black, honestly, to make the lower part of the stem darker because it would be in shadow, and so it would probably just be straight black. So let's get pure black on the brush and just kind of like blend that up. I might actually be able to use this to, no, let's just do this first. Let's see, we might be able to brush the black in to create highlights, but I'd rather just add the actual highlights. That's too complicated for me. Okay. And
Then I'm going to take the blue that I was using and just brush that down into the black and blend that out so that the bottom part of the stem is the darkest. See? And again, I'm not sure you guys can tell. You can't see that at all on camera. Let me zoom you in. There you go. You can kind of see it's darker here and then it gets a little lighter. And then what we're going to do is take our white, mix that with the blue-black color. We very much still want it to be dark. We just want it to be less dark. And we're just going to like add in some highlights. The top is, I believe the top was highlighted. I think for now, I think that looks good. We also have this weird little thing that extends off, like the little leftover vine or whatever. I'm not sure what it's meant to be. It's hard to tell on the picture. It's very blurred out. And so I'm going to use my number 5. Come on. I guess it's not going. There it goes. Number 5 brush. In the reference, it's kind of a very pale yellow, but I feel like the yellow that I have doesn't pull the same tone, and so I think I'm going to mix a bit of black, white, and yellow to see if I can kind of achieve a similar shade. And realistically, we've all seen pumpkins, and the leftover vines turn like kind of a brown. If you don't want to even do this, you really don't even have to do this little added piece. It's just on the reference, so I'm gonna add it. I don't know. It's a strange color compared to the stem, I feel like, but it's like that. I don't know. And then we could use actually maybe the same color to even like highlight a little bit. Maybe that make more sense, I guess. I don't know. We're just experimenting, guys. We're just doing whatever. There, I actually think that looks really nice. I am going to create a little bit of a darker shade though to put it here and give it a little bit of dimension. So, yeah, I think that's it for the stem, actually. There's the whole painting. So far, we've still got to add some details to the pumpkin, and for that, I think I'm going to switch to my number 2 liner brush. This should be, yeah, it's dry. And I'm going to mix up a very light yellow. One thing also, I think that it's something that I forget, and so I assume that other people probably do as well, is that when your paint water, the rinse water, gets dirty, you have to change it out, because if you're using a lot of dark colors before you switch to a lighter one, or have 2 rinse cups or whatever. Oops. Because if your water is dirty and you're trying to paint a very light yellow color, let's say, and your water is blue tinted, that will show up, that will change the color of your, I'm adding some slow dried medium to that actually because it's not blending very well. But otherwise, the color of the water can affect your paint color. We don't want that because why would we want to put, oh no, of course it's too light. Why would we want to put all the time and effort into painting to dip our brushes into gross paint water and end up with dirty, like muddy colors? Because that's kind of what it does. It makes it muddy looking. Hopefully I don't completely mess this up, you know. We'll see. We just wanted to note that there are like highlights along. Anywhere there's a shadow, there's also going to be a highlight. So we just need to pick where we want. Ooh, well, that got out of hand. That's okay. Oops. You use your finger and kind of blend it. So we're going to put this on the highlighted side here. And you guys know I am not a realism painter, so this is not going to look 100% like a real pumpkin. And I'm okay with that because there are real pumpkins. So if someone wants to see a real pumpkin, then they can go to their local farmer's market, pumpkin patch, whatever, Walmart, and look at a real pumpkin. No, I'm just kidding. I would love to be a realism painter, but I'm not there. And maybe I won't be, and that's okay. I'll put a highlight there. And I do like using my finger to blend. There are just some things that I personally feel like are easier to blend out with your fingers than with a brush, like that. Chunky looking, and then look, so smooth. And I just like playing in paint, so there's also that. Roll the paint on, and brush it down. I don't think that's too light, I feel like. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. I feel very strange still recording them. Like I said, I feel like I talk too much and don't make a lot of sense sometimes, so it's a little difficult for me. Oops, I don't want to touch that to the black. And honestly, very slight along there. I don't know that you guys can see that at all. Probably not, but that's okay. I'll show you once the whole painting is done, which I think it might be. I always say that, and then I have to go sit back and look for a while. Which is what I'm going to do. I will be back to either finish the video or show you what's next. And here's the final painting, you guys. I'll move you in so you can see the details of the pumpkin. I did go back and add some bright white highlights in like these areas here with a white gel pen. That's just something I like to do. I think it makes it look a little bit more crisp, and for me, like surrealism maybe is what it looks like. Like it doesn't look realistic, but it makes it look, I don't know the word, but I like it. There are little sparkles, and I'll zoom you back out. Maybe. There we go. And that's our painting. I am going to sign it, paint the edges black, and I will be done. Thank you so much for watching. If any of you stuck with me this long, I appreciate it. I'm sorry for the rambling, but I hope you are doing well. Take care of yourself, take care of others, and I will see you soon. Bye!